It's Thursday again. Seems like it happens every week. This is our weekly Anchore OSS gardening session. My name's Dan. We've also got some other folks on the line here. We're the Anchore open source engineering team. We've got Alex, Will, Chris, and Keith today. And essentially, we use this as a time to go through some of our open source projects. We've got Syft and Grype and Grant and a number of other open source projects. These are tools that you can point at various types of software material and get insights, get vulnerability scans, get license information, get all sorts of interesting stuff about your software through these open source tools. And so typically what we do is we'll go through our projects and look at either interesting issues or PRs, things that have come up from our other community sessions, and talk directly with the engineers over here at Anchore about these topics from the community. So let's see, let's get started. Normally we start with our needs discussion label, but today I thought we might jump over and start with our discourse topics. To see if there's anything there we want to chat about. And then, of course, actually, I should stop first and say there was a community session this morning. If there's anything folks want to dig into first from that session, now might be a good time to raise those up.
I mean, there's definitely a bunch of good discussions. There's in terms of feature requests that were fun to chat through. One was we have an open issue around configurable severity, like the wish to, okay, well, you get CVSS from, say, NVD, and within that, like a CNA or other experts, you can get CVSS straight from the vendor. And right now, we prefer the vendor. And so whenever we have a vendor, we raise that up first, and then otherwise we'll take whatever is available. But we definitely know we have customers, we have other projects that they have very specific requirements here. It's like, I only trust NVD for XYZ reasons. So having more control over what gets presented in both the table output and the JSON is a desire. And so, that came up. That was one of those, like, yeah, we definitely want to have that configuration. And so the next step is figuring out what the proposal is there. Like, what would that config be? What would the options be? How would it look like? And then change, like, being able to sort by those things as well. So it has some connective tissue between some other, lateral features.
Was there an existing ticket for that one that we could just add here for?
I think Will dropped one in.
Yeah, I think I put a link to that GitHub issue in the chat.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Sorry. So that's
Grype 1378.
There we go. Just bring it up here so folks can see it. That. This one, yes.
Yeah. And so this one, when we were talking about it, we realized, like, oh, hey, there is an existing issue for this one. And like, there has been some conversation back and forth, but there wasn't any like specific proposal yet, which I think is all it's really missing is like, hey, we want the configuration to kind of be shaped like this to have these specific things. And we have a couple of good guesses as to what that might be, but odds are there's some other folks like boots on the ground that will have a very specific desire that we want to get that feedback first before we try to like move forward with any proposal. So
nice.
Is it worth saying sort of where we're at right now with the severity stuff? Grype, when it's showing table output and stuff, it collapses the fairly complicated topic of vulnerability severity into like a single strength, like high or critical or something. And right now, like the default position of Grype is that the data source that matched the vulnerability controls the metadata. So if we're scanning a Debian image, then the Debian like security issue tracker's severity is the one we try to show you. I think this is a good default position because sometimes these OS distributions like RPMs or D packages or whatever might have some configurations or install steps or different compiler options or something that make an issue more or less severe. But lots of people might want to see NVD. And then the other layer of complexity is that NVD doesn't necessarily have only one severity, right? You can have multiple
Right.
CVSS vectors on the same CVE from different sources. And so, like, not all users want to see the same severities. There's some complexity to it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I had another thing that came up in the live stream or on the community call earlier, but it actually has needs discussion on it, so we'll just save that to the tail end of the meeting. So
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So for folks watching, like, I think, you know, the long and short of it is there's still more discussion to be had on this one. Very much interested in people's feedback on the types of, like, what kind of presentation, what kind of control knobs are most valuable. I think would be like really very interesting to find out. Okay, well, let's jump over to the discourse topics and see if there's anything here. There might not be, but we can see. Let's see, we've got one here, not supported PNPM yet.
is that true? I thought we had support for that. Am I crazy?
Yeah, let's check this one out.
I also thought that.
That was like the PNPM lock is what we supported.
Yeah,
Because I've been just reviewing all the catalogers for the.
So there's one
docs.
that I started a review on this week. There's PNPM v9 lock files that we don't support yet, and I ran the CI checks. We got the exports and cataloger figured out. Oh, I'm sorry. PNPM lock files for JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
What we're talking about here. So the V8 log file is what we don't support at the moment, or V9.
Oh, interesting. And okay, so maybe it's that simple. If
it
you go
looks like they
top of the-
downloaded an SBOM from GitHub and piped it into Grype. So I don't know that our cataloger support matters.
well then,
It is a 9, it looks like it's a 9.0. Is that the right place to look for the version? Yeah, I guess.
yeah. I mean, well, I don't know to what you're saying. I'll have to go back and look at that, but at the very least, it looks like our cataloger might not support that version. To what Chris was saying.
If just in the discourse post, I mean, I see handlebars. So if there are packages there from the SBOM, the issue is that it looks like the caret is part of the version, and we may be not interpreting that in an expected way, at least as part of the issue.
Yeah, I think we definitely split on that. Interesting. Oh no, I'm lying to you. I'm looking at something else. Ignore what I said.
The good thing about V9 too is there's no like one of the changes of PNPM and just like your regular old package log files is all resolved dependencies are listed in the top level packages field. So we're not like parsing direct, indirect, or anything like that. Like it's just a flat. Here are all the things that are being passed, and those get lifted right into our Syft packages at the end, which have the package name version. Go Will. Sorry.
I feel like I'm confused whether I'm looking at the same thing. So, it looks to me like they downloaded the SBOM from GitHub. Like if you follow that link, there's an export SBOM button.
Right.
And they piped that into Grype. And so, but then it sounded like we were talking about catalogers. And so I'm just confused.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I see that I was talking about the cataloger path, and it could be that this doesn't even play in at all. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like they're downloading the SBOM, thus bypassing anything to do with Syft, and this is really just a Grypeism. So I hear you.
Yeah, it looks like. I think the short answer here is that the GitHub SBOM is not very good.
Yeah, I was just kind of
Um,
curious to look at where we stand.
like they have catalog : as a package version in it, in a number of places. So it's an
There,
interesting.
that's going to be the carrot right there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, this would probably take some evaluation, but I think, I think you're right. Like,
Yeah.
it's probably this that is,
Yeah, if you hit export SBOM on that page, and they link directly to that page, not to the source repo. And if you hit export SBOM there, there's carrots in version. It's an SPDX 2.3 SBOM with garbage strings in version fields. And so I think the reason that Grype isn't working is that it's not a good SBOM. So you see you have version info catalog : version info tilde 4.0.2. And so I think, I don't know, it might be that if we scan the log file, we'll have better log, but I think there's probably something there. I think what they're doing initially is passing, because it's like formatted as a valid SPDX3 SBOM, but it's got nonsense versions in it. So
I do wonder if so this is kind of a secondary thing here, is that, you know, they've gotten no warning that there could be an issue, and you could definitely make the argument, how could we possibly really know if the version shouldn't have a tilde, caret, etc. But I wonder if we could add a feature like that, where if Grype finds nothing and there's something, and I'm just going to hand wave and say suspicious about the input, like some weird characters, there's a null in there, like, you know, maybe we can flag it and say, hey, you didn't find anything and your input seems odd or malformed or something. So they'd have a hint, and maybe even add another configurable around that where it's like fail if you see such cases, but maybe don't have that be the default. Because I mean, this isn't going to be the first time. This is going to be the last time we see this. It's you know, there's a lot of SBOM generators out there. Lots of ways people craft SBOMs, sometimes manually. It's really easy to, like, say fat finger or something. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree fundamentally. This is the important information. It's basically Grype is giving some weird output when the input is the SPDX SBOMs from GitHub for this ecosystem at least. Yeah.
I started typing up a response already, so I'm happy to finish that up.
Ah, okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
The only thing I'm debating is, like, if we were to add such a warning feature, though, should we put it in Grype? Should we put it in Syft in the SBOM decode path? Both? I don't know. Like, I guess both doesn't make sense, but I don't know if I have a strong opinion there, but
yeah, I think we've talked a little bit about, like, SBOM quality, right? Like, somebody shows up with an SBOM and we want to say, like, can we do a license compliance check? Like, is this a good SBOM for grant? Can we do a vulnerability scan? Is this a good SBOM for Syft? And I think that those are sort of different questions, right? Because you just grant needs more a list of licenses, and it doesn't care as much if the version numbers are weird or the ecosystems are weird. But, like, Grype needs to know, like, what kind of a package is it and exactly what version it is, or it can't really do it. In this case, I think that SBOM, we probably could have said, wow, we're using the fuzzy matcher a lot. Like, that's one of those things. Like, every single package in here is falling back to our, like, oh, this doesn't match that, it doesn't match that, it's not this kind of package. Oh, well, I guess we'll string sort, like, all the way down to the least preferred method of version comparison, which is why the results are kind of weird.
Well,
I think in our answer to this person, we should confirm that they're downloading the SBOM from that page and maybe suggest that they look at it. Because it's
Yeah,
not good. But if you download the lock file from that repo and do like syft-o JSON pipe Grype, it finds a reasonable number of believable matches.
right.
So I think the short answer to this person is that SBOM is garbage and you should use Syft to make your SBOM.
yeah. I feel like there's also something else here too, though. Like when we run across a version that looks, or let's put it another way. So like we could warn to the user when we see stuff like this, but we could also try to be resilient to such things. Yeah, like the line you have, like there's nothing to do there.
Yeah,
Because like the
that's-
version is
yeah.
catalog : clearly something's gone off the rails, so we can't do anything. But like down below with a caret in the front, if we know that it's npm, and those tend to be semver, and we see odd characters in the front, like doing some cleaning in advance of the version, it would be possible. Thus, we
Well,
don't even need to warn. We could just continue forth with the correct comparison.
yeah. Well, and the caret itself is a version constraint, right? It's greater than 4.77, less than 5.0, I think.
Right.
So we can say, does that intersect with the vulnerable range? I don't know. That's probably too much code for this edge case, but
Yeah, my head kind of went somewhere similar to what you were saying, Alex, but it's very context sensitive because, yeah, this is a legitimate semver character to have in a version abstractly, but I think it's arguable that it's not a legitimate form of a version for an installed package. Like, I don't think it's a way, like, as far as I understand it, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't have caret 477 installed. I have some actual version of software installed.
I wonder if it's worth trying to talk to GitHub about, like, I don't know. I'm kind of hung up on like this user downloaded the SBOM from GitHub and it's just really not a good representation of the repo. But yeah, I think we should at least get a reply up confirming that's what they're doing.
I'm
agree,
like 99% sure it is, because you can see the file name.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you get. I just
Yeah.
downloaded it. Right, here's mine. The one I just downloaded.
Right.
It's
And
definitely.
we can see the version, the catalog : is a version, at 477
Yeah, that weird stuff.
is a version. So yeah, and it's interesting, but I think this is a place where we could say, like, I don't know, we could warn, like, there's sort of two ways we could go, right? We could try to assess the SBOM like at parse time and say, like, wow, that's a lot of npm packages with unparsable versions. Or we could sort of, the next time we're looking at that information is at match time, and we could say, like, npm packages don't usually fall back to the fuzzy matcher. Like, that we should warn that. We could just warn there, and then they would have seen a wall of warnings, which is, I also hate for users to see a wall of warnings when we could have done something else, but at least they wouldn't have just seen, like, we will happily try to do this obviously incorrect thing.
Yeah. I you brought up one point earlier, Will, about like SBOM capabilities, like, passing an SBOM that can even do such use case, like vulnerability scanning use case. Yeah, even though it's not inside that, I do feel like it's tangential to it. I feel like the same way that we would tell someone that your SBOM does not fulfill the vulnerability matching use case, we would probably also tell someone, and your SBOM that you passed in has validation issues, has value issues. But I feel like if we're going to support either of those use cases, or also both of those use cases, then like that should be presented in the same way. And I don't what that way is and where it is. I have like 3 or 4 answers and no final answer.
Right. It's also really hard to, like, sure a thing is invalid, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it is.
like catalog colon is almost certainly not a valid package name, but like, or package version, but there are some really goofy package versioning schemes, and it's going to be really hard to have a program say, I promise you this is not a valid version, because people, like, in some ways, like from the perspective of a lot of package managers and stuff, the version is just like an opaque string, right? Or a lexically sortable string.
Right, because they only have to be internally compatible with what they deem to be a correct version, not all the
Yeah,
others.
and so
Interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead, Dan.
The only other thought I had on this is like, narrowing the scope of the question might help. I don't think it'd ever be perfect, but saying, what can we determine is definitely not going to work for which functions? And by that, I mean, in this case that we're looking at here, the only reason the two version strings matter is because it's part of like determining whether or not it's showing up on the screen as a match, i.e. there's a comparison. So maybe an interesting way to ask this question is, I have a left-hand side and a right-hand side and an inequality operator in the middle. Are they actually comparable in any way that's meaningful as part of the comparison function rather than in the like data source function?
Right.
And I don't think you'd get everything, because if I had 1.0.0 dash catalog colon, I don't know, that might fit into the semantic versioning. And
Yeah,
maybe it is comparable to 3.2.2. But in this case, I think all 6 of those wouldn't pass does this make sense to compare for version matching, for vulnerability matching, left-hand side, right-hand side?
Yeah. And that's,
It wouldn't catch all the cases, right? But it might catch some of these, right? Like the egregious ones.
right. And like normally our philosophy is like, we try to use, like, we have special version comparators for different packages. Like RPMs have their own special way of versioning, D packages have their own special way of versioning.
Right.
We have a semver comparator. We have a special PEP 440 comparator for Python packages.
Yeah.
And so people publish vulnerabilities, and we pull those in, and we try to parse those into vulnerable ranges that conform to that. And if we fail, we'll make what's called a fuzzy version,
Yeah.
which is sort of a semver-like version where we don't have like a strong spec on either side. Does a bunch of heuristics. And so I think the interesting thing in this matching is that like we used the fuzzy version for everything, even though they're all like NPM packages, and that's really weird.
Yeah.
So and that's what. But like the reason Grype has that do its best behavior is because people put weird things in package versions and put weird things in vulnerability disclosures, and we don't want to just leave data on the floor just because a string didn't look exactly how we thought it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. That fuzzy version comparator comes in way more handy than it should in a good way.
I know. That's why I was wondering though, if like asking the question, what, is there a set of things that we would definitely say it makes no sense to even run a comparison? I'm not sure the answer to that is yes or no, but I was just thinking about other ways to ask the question.
Yeah, I wonder.
There probably are some versions that don't have any numbers, but that's a pretty odd thing to me, looking at this catalog, for example.
Right. Well, especially if you take into consideration you have both a left-hand and right-hand side pieces of information. Like if one said catalog colon and one said catalog colon 1, I would say, something could make a determination that those are comparable. But having catalog on one side and a semver on the other, there's information there. I'm kind of thinking out loud, but I'm just sort of wondering if there's something there.
And we do have in the Grype database the fact that one of those sides is semver specifically too. So, so that's a good indication that like, hey, we should expect something that looks at least sort of like a number.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a way to say in that there's a hook in the comparison to say, I know the left-hand side, I know the right-hand side, I should be able to do this. So there is a spot for it. I do wonder what the action would be then.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot to do in that part of the code. You could basically just not make the comparison and log. We can't like stop further action per se.
Right.
We probably could make a special like sentinel error that was, you know, don't do any further comparisons. Like if you were because it usually would try doing that for, you know, further matching, and we could just have it short circuit, I guess, at that point.
We could have some configuration too. Maybe some user wants to get all of those results that aren't comparable and some user doesn't, or that type of thing.
Yeah. Or maybe we flag the whole, like keep doing the matches. Like one of the configuration options that you were talking about, like keep the matches, but then put it in the ignore matches section and flag it or something. So like at least it showed up.
Yeah. Right.
But also that there's another issue we have where we want to flag more things in the ignored issues, right? Like
Yeah.
not instead of things being like, oh, 0 matches, it's there were 0, but flag here and look at these for specific reasons. This could just be one more of those reasons.
I'm waiting for the person that's going to put in the report that says like, well, I have 10,000 matches and they were all ignored for some reason. And so like my table output had nothing, but then I did the JSON output and I got 3 megs. It hasn't happened yet, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just confirmed. So we do treat NPM packages as semantic. But like we go straight into the semantic version comparison when we see an NPM package Perl type on the package. So we probably had strong enough signal here to say, like, hey, catalog colon is not a semv error. It does not look like a reasonable typo of a semv error. Something's not right.
Right, but I think this what to do about when something's not right is what's been
That's tricky.
up in the air. So it's because I mean, because it's up in the air, we basically make the match anyway, assuming that fuzzy matcher is going to have some coin toss, you know, of being right.
Yep. The other end of the spectrum is like all the way back in like the artifact analysis saying, you know, this one just doesn't look right. So it's not even part of vulnerability matching, you know, in the first place.
Yeah. I think the matchers being involved in that conversation is going to make sense most of the time. Because one of the earlier things I was saying was like, oh, maybe this could be all the way back in Syft at the decode, and I'm leaning away from that now. If the matcher wasn't involved with this, it would be odd because I think the matcher should be given as much information as possible in advance and make the decision and stuff. That's the whole reason why they exist, is so they get to make the decision. So, yeah. Well,
okay. Well, I mean, the follow-up here, Keith, thanks for responding. We'll see what the user comes back with. But I think, Will, you said it earlier. I think it is going to be important. Like, let's take a look at that SBOM. Like, it's weird that GitHub is making an SPDX when you click this button that's got catalog colon in a version string. Let's make sure we're looking in the right place so there's not something else goofy going on there.
Yeah, and it could be like their support for PNPM is uneven.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're fine with a package like JSON, but this isn't quite a package like JSON or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps they don't support version 9 of the PNPM.
We should suggest to them to use Syft.
Agreed. Okay, well, what do you guys think? Good discussion on this topic. Do you want to move on to some needs discussions?
do it.
All right. Yeah. PRs or issues? Does anyone have an opinion?
Alex, didn't you have one that you wanted to kick to the end of the meeting that you mentioned, you foreshadowed? Was it the internal tools or?
Yeah, it's on the issue side. So if you bring up the issues, it should be, there you go, right at the top. So,
let's do it.
This is the other one that was brought up during the office hours. So essentially, this is a proposal of like, hey, there probably is a way that we can reduce false positives. So we bring in more vuln data that has symbol level information, and then additionally searching for that symbol information in the in whatever you were cataloging. We, in part of that discussion, we said, hey, we really want to do a proof of concept. And so the person that put this in, he might put in a proof of concept for this one, but I'd say the idea would be, let's try this with the Golang ecosystem, and specifically it'd be like one application that takes Grype JSON output today and filters it based off of pulling Go vuln data that has symbol-based information, and then doing an analysis on the binary that was built from the Go compiler to match up those symbols. If you get a match, then that ends up filtering out or flip that. Sorry. If you don't find a match on the symbols, then you filter out that that particular CVE that you found. But we've definitely wanted to do this in the past, and something like this, I'll say, not this exact thing. For Go in particular, like the thing that's kind of stopped us is we don't have a good way to get symbol level information into the SBOM. But I think what we talked about in one of these live streams, 1 or 2 sessions ago, I can't remember, we said like, well, maybe if we went forward with a opt-in feature to bring in symbol level information into SBOMs, in which case that would be, since it's opt-in, it's okay if the SBOM grows by a size of 10 because you're opting into it. That being said, I think we really only identified 1 or 2 different ecosystems that would benefit from this, but I would bet there are more. And we also don't know how we would do this at, like I say, a source level analysis. If we have the source code right in front of us, that's a lot of work to write, parsers in Go to, do Python AST, Rust AST, et cetera. Like we really don't want to get into that business. So that's the pop off the stack. That's the high and medium level kind of explanation of what this was. I don't know if anybody's got any commentary.
I missed the front end of the community meeting today. Was the proposal for the symbol information to be expanded in the metadata? So like per ecosystem, there's a field that grows or shrinks in the metadata and not on the capital P package of Syft.
Yeah, there were.
Go for Will.
I was gonna say, I think there were sort of 2 ideas swirling around. One was like some bonus Grype behavior that only works for like the OCI source type, where Grype can just go back and look at the artifacts at runtime. And the other one was like opting into having, SBOMs that are 1,000 times as large because there's like a list of symbols in the metadata. I think that what we ended up doing was saying, write a prototype that's basically a separate program that runs after Grype, that it filters Grype output and has access to the file. And we can use that to test, can we do a good job with this approach before we figure out the data plumbing problem? Because the data plumbing that you're talking about, that's, an SBOM is just a list of packages, right? And if you want a list of all the symbols in the packages, there are many symbols in a package, so your document's going to get many times larger. But yeah, I think so. It would be cool. Go is a good experiment for it. We had a related request we discussed a while ago where the user was trying to correlate jars in a Syft SBOM with the output of a Java profiler. And so they also wanted sort of symbol information in the SBOM. So if the profiler is saying this class, this method is taking too long, you can figure out which jar brought that into your image more easily. I think this was sort of the ask, which is kind of a similar request.
I have a question about the Go data. Does anyone know, like, is it actually at the symbol level or is it at the package level?
It's a package and function level, I believe. So I think some are on symbol. I lied. I'll have to bring up some examples.
No,
I think,
Would be a
I
package.
think the answer to Keith's question is just yes. Like there's some associated at the module level, there's some associated at the function level, and there's some associated at the package level. Like, so the data exists, yes, for all. Just depending on how specific the report is and how the data scheme allows for you to associate at multiple levels, or at a specific level of your choice.
I guess my reason for asking is I wonder if there's like some level that we could capture in an SBOM, which would be like a happy medium of not making it giant, but also providing enough information to significantly reduce false positives. I don't know, that might be interesting to do some experimentation there once we have, you know, some prototypes.
Yeah. I mean, most of what I'm seeing so far, it's just paths. It would be like package level. I swore when I went to go, I think it was like a year and a half ago, I prototyped what it would look like to incorporate some of this into a SBOM, and I was trying to find the right, ratio of like trying to compact this together, and I gave up. But I swore that there was more than just path. So I could be a liar.
They might have updated it since then. I swear that there were associations beyond path.
I mean, I've only seen ones with path, but I haven't looked at it in detail whatsoever, so.
right, but I thought there was a lot of fanfare around like a Go build tooling aware thing that was gonna like do some light reachability analysis using like Go stuff. But I don't, yeah, I see everything I see is.
Here's one. It took me a while to find one. I'll drop it in the chat here. So some do have symbols.
Bring it up here.
So this would be in the standard lib for this example, in the package HTML template, and then the specific symbols template.execute template.execute template. Yeah, here's another one.
Yeah, and also if you're just browsing, a lot of them are unreviewed, and maybe that's the problem.
I
don't know.
I found better luck back there.
Could also be that the standard library ones are the ones with the symbol information, which would still be really helpful, because otherwise, well, here's a counterexample.
Yeah.
But it's really helpful to have the symbol filtering, even just on the standard library, because the standard library is in every Go binary. And so we have to report every Go binary is vulnerable to the CVE, even though it's something about HTML templates, and your Go binary doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's super annoying. It's a frustrating class of false positive, because it takes a human like 5 seconds to say, well, there's no HTML in here. So
That's a bad one. I think the ones about like the Go binary tools, like the Go executable itself, like because it's like CMD / something, like it's all still lumped into that same like Go standard lib.
Yeah, we should try to find one of those. There have been a couple like compile time vulnerabilities in the Go tool chain that, because it's all the same project, we end up reporting against every Go binary built from that version of Go. And that is probably not fair. So we could use the symbol thing to say like, oh, well, it doesn't import the command package. Like it doesn't have the Go command in it. I feel like there's a Grype false positive about that comes up from time to time.
There it is. It's super. I just +1. It's a super annoying class of false positive. I can find it.
Here's one that's
Yeah.
all symbols and in command to go. So
There's the I just dropped Grype 1782, which is like, hey, we got a Docker image with binaries that were compiled from Go 1 point whatever. Please don't show me vulnerabilities. Yeah, so this is in command/go. But if you don't have, because right now we end up making a Syft package that represents like version 1.2.8 of the Go project or whatever, which is vulnerable to this. So.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this is the sort of one where we say, you see the standard library is vulnerable, but if you go read about the CVE is a build time vulnerability. It's not a runtime vulnerability in the standard library. It's like a flaw in the tooling. So, yep. Okay, Alex has been thinking about this solution for at least a year.
Yep.
yeah, I mean, there was one afternoon where I did a little prototype to the SBOM just got so large. I think I've gone the other way.
Yeah.
I really do think that if I think of Syft as just a tool, I can see this being pretty great. But if I think of it as a library for other utilities, which it is, I think having the ability to optionally include that symbol information turns into a no-brainer, because then things like Grype can use it. So like invoking Grype natively without having the SBOM, it can do this analysis, get all the results on it, and Syft is doing all the mining. So from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, we should definitely put this stuff in Syft. And then it's the SBOM implications are that, shall always be opt-in, beware you get large SBOMs. So go for it, Chris.
I just wanted to. I mean, yes, I agree, Alex, that all of what you just said, but I wanted +1 the approach that was suggested in the community meeting, even though it wasn't there. I think writing a separate program that does the, like, hey, prove to ourselves, like, what the reduction looks like, and then going through the effort is just the default way we should be approaching problems.
Okay.
Instead of, even if we feel that we've weighed on the data plumbing problem, it's always good to see what results look like before we undertake that work.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a there's a particular reason that I just wanted to put into the discussion here for this one specifically. It's that as far as I know, Golang, the vulnerability source from Golang is well, I shouldn't say the only, but it's one of very few that actually include the information about the which paths or functions or actual calls are affected by the vulnerability. That's definitely not a general thing that exists in all of the vulnerability data sources out there. So I like the idea, because there's always these chicken and egg kind of situations, but this approach lends itself to say, actually, if successful, one of the conclusions could be, hey, we should go to the other ecosystems and say, what would it take to try to get this level of information into the vulnerability data sources? Because look how great it can be.
Yeah.
I know Weston actually pointed out there's something in the Python advisory database starting to put this in there, which is really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the original poster of this issue pointed out that it's very often mentioned in the string description.
Oh, for sure.
Right? It very often says there's a use after free bug in the Lua function, change GC pause time or something, right? And so I made that up. I don't even know if Lua has such a function, but it might be possible to try to extract some of those, depending on how obvious the phrasing is or whatever. But that's sort of risky. the other thing we talked about at some length at the community meeting is that languages with runtime reflection, it's really hard to prove a thing isn't called. So that gets a little scary. You don't want to have a false negative because, you know, somebody has a config file with the name of the encryption method, and then they like, you know, construct that method call at runtime, but it's not present in the source code.
Yeah. All right, well, yeah, that sounds like a really interesting discussion to happen this morning. I think we should absolutely like support this initiative.
Nice.
Let's see, anything more you guys want to highlight on this particular issue, or do you have a good, I wasn't at the community meeting, so is there a good kind of move forward agreement with the user?
Yeah, he's working, I believe he is moving forward with a proof of concept. So it's
Cool.
like, yep, we know matching will get better, and here's the basic mechanisms. And then when that proof of concept's, you know, is in place, the next step is to plumb that through into Syft, Grype, DB, bundle. You know, that's the hard work, right? It's
Yeah,
gonna get into
for
all
sure,
all the nouns.
Yep. That sounds good then. Well, I just wanted to like pause for a second, specifically call out the user. Thank you for working on this project with us. I think it's going to be, you know, it's a really compelling idea for sure. We've been thinking about it for a bit, and this is a cool approach. So thank you for that. In that case, let's move on. How much time do we have left? We got like 10 minutes or so. Plenty of
Yeah.
time for another ticket. So let's see. Any of these jump out, or should I just move on to the next one? This one's in Grype DB.
We already touched on this.
Ah,
So this
yeah,
is
we did.
basically, you know, there's the Grype issue to configure which severity you trust most. And this is sort of the database creation side of it. Whereas if you have something like a CVSS 4.0 from NIST and a CVSS 3.1 from the CNA, which one gives you the default severity? So I don't know that.
Okay.
I feel like we already kind of discussed it on this call a bit.
There's one I would like to talk about if we have time. It's a pull request. I'm not sure. The user also has a discourse post. I can't find that at the moment. Let's go to the Syft pull requests, and we can probably jump to the other linked places from there.
Okay. These are pull requests that have needs discussion. You just want to look at the Syft PRs.
It's under the Syft pull requests, yeah. And another way we can find it too. I'm not going to overload on how to find it. Let's just go to Syft pull requests, and then we'll go from there. Oh, that's an interesting typo squat. That
Yeah.
person with the Syft.
I've done that more than once, that's for sure. So
Okay,
here we go.
and let's find it. Feature add support for detecting packages in jars, 4199.
Boom.
I think this is the one.
Mm-hmm. We talked about, yeah, this one's come up in our last couple of
Oh,
meetings.
this isn't the one though. This one had to do with Java, and so my brain went, oh, that's the Java one. Give me 2 seconds. I'll get the exact one for it.
I know which one you're talking about. It's,
You do?
yeah, it's actually a pull request in the other person's repo, not in the Syft repo.
Oh, that's why. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm linking this into our Zoom chat.
I found it.
Okay, give me a second. I'll pull it up here.
Wow, thank you, Keith. Yeah, I remember I got to it from our board and I was like, why can't I find this on the Syft pull request anymore? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know the answer to this, and I wanted to bring it up for discussion for the whole group. So we're parsing the POM XML. Well, we want to be parsing the POM XML in this case, and we're instead jumping to the manifest first, which is, in Douglas's opinion, giving us some incorrect group names and group IDs. I thought we'd already like really synced on the ordering of what to parse and how to parse it for the different types of artifacts, specifically when a jar is parsed as an archive. But yeah, the
Actually, I
floor
don't
is
know
kind of
why
open
that's the
here.
case.
Say again?
I don't know why that's the case. I think we should be looking at a single POM, even if the properties don't exist.
Yeah, there's been a weirdness, and that's been the whole thing is that it only works when there's a properties for some reason. I've never known why that is, and I absolutely support if we find a POM XML, then use it.
Yeah. The best I can figure is it was a bad assumption when it was first written, and it's just been ported forward forever.
That's good. Okay, if that's actually the case, that's fine. I just thought that for the archive parser, we'd already done the what is the correct ordering of the things and how should they be? And I wanted to have that discussion again on like this is the de facto, but if it's just been
Yeah.
a bad assumption we've carried forward, then happy to take this PR and it's doing what he says he's doing. I just wanted to get agreement that what he says is doing is the correct to approach this.
The only thing I could think of is if like, I mean, if there's no properties, there's no properties. So I don't know.
The only thing I can possibly think of is that the properties are resolved values from the POM, and like a lot of times you have variables in the POM for the version, and like, but now we pretty much like support all of those correctly with the Maven parser work that I did some time ago. So like it could have been that it wasn't very reliable before, and now it is. That's the only thing I can really think of offhand, that maybe we kind of like defaulted to the POM properties instead.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that every time I have to open up, like this is the one cataloger that I really wish was simpler. And
The function call stack for this is so gross. I think I've been through it like 10 times, and it's just like 12 different functions that all branch into different ways of parsing the different artifacts that can be existing within a Java, like the Java ecosystem.
Well, yeah, like I think the complexity is it's really it comes down to like a jar can have a bunch of different things in it. This is different than say like so okay, Python has lots of disparate distribution mechanisms, right? Like, but the thing that's a bit of a saving grace is that a lot of it it's under the same PEP. I forget the number, 847 or something, but it's all the metadata is used to describe it. It's all the same. So even though you'll have like a wheel or an egg, etc., like you open it up and it's kind of the same. So it's not all that difficult. It's just a little confusing to look at like the number of parser functions and whatnot. Whereas for Java, it's different. Like if you have a jar, like, well, you might have a POM XML in there. You might have, only a manifest. Maybe there might be nested jars. Maybe those jars themselves have different assumptions, and it just makes it like those extra assumptions just make this parser more and more complicated. Like, I do wish one day we can come and revisit this cataloger and find a way to refactor it to be like more understandable, a little easier to read. Because every time we touch this, it's like, okay, what do we break? We have a whole body of tests, but it's because it's so large, you just wonder what's going to happen. At least I'm happy that there's no manifest. This isn't touching the manifest path. That's great. So.
Apologies, we had a router issue. I'm on the hotspot now, so no video. But yes, I also agree. No manifest is very good for the complexity.
Yeah. It's the nice thing about the POM metadata is that it's like you're either gonna have an artifact from group ID or you're not. Whereas the manifest, it's like you're doing, which fields in section will it be in? I don't know today. Let's find out in this episode of Are You in the Manifest INF? Yeah. Well, that's probably it on this one, unless we got any other questions.
Yep, that's it. I pinged the user to like make it against Syft main instead of his own main, and then we'll get it merged in.
Awesome.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be good to get that one over, and thank you again for the PR on that one. Good. Well, we've got approximately 5 minutes left. That seems like time for maybe one more needs discussion. What do you guys think? Let's go to Let's go to the
What
edge.
about that big architecture one? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't do it this way. Like there's some pretty old ones in here that still have needs discussion. Maybe we can start with that. You guys want to do one of these?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we could talk about by CVE a little bit. So, Grype we've mentioned this before on this call, but Grype has a default behavior of the matcher that found the vulnerability gets to choose all the data, right? So in other words, if we're scanning the SBOM has a PyPy package, PyPy packages we try to match against GHSA data. The GHSA data, so you're going to have in the matching by default, you're going to have an ID that starts with GHSA. You're going to have the severity that's present in GitHub, the fixed version that's present in GitHub, etc. You can do that by default because it's generally more accurate. Some users do not want to see GHSAs. Maybe they have a regulatory mandate to use NVD data as their ground truth or something. So there's a flag dash by CVE, which operates, Alex reminded me today, operates basically by transposing. So if you find a GHSA, there'll probably be a related CVE in the related vulnerabilities field. We basically transpose those and report as if we found a CVE that's related to a GHSA. I think maybe we could do better there. It is a quick way of getting the like severity and stuff from NVD, but there's some goofy assumptions in it. It can lose fixed in data. Some data providers we end up using like advisories, which are many to many with CVEs. So you end up multiplying the number of rows because you found like a single ELSA fixes n CVEs. You end up with a row for each of them. There's also mentioned further down in the thread that we might want to be able to do like by European Vulnerability Database ID or something. So it's kind of related to the severity thing, but like the assumption that the matcher, the like data source that the matcher that found the record refers owns all the data isn't good for every user. And we just have this one sort of big hammer to break that assumption. We don't have like subtle ways of breaking that assumption. And there also people might want a report broken down or organized in different ways. Keith was just saying in the chat, by location might be interesting, right? So you see like which jar is causing the most problems or something. Anybody else have context to share on here?
Well, Keith, were you saying like dash by and then just some value, and that value would be like NVD or EUVD or da da da? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know, just sort of a random thing, but yeah, just to that, I think people want to orient by things other than just CVE or or something else. And a common thing has been location that people want to see. To answer the question, how do I fix the problem? Rather than just show me all the problems that I have. So I mean, I think it may not be the exact same thing, but I think it's a similar ask.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I do think it's an interesting insight to like some of these bullets. Reorients everything, I think makes this very complicated. If instead the question was like column 1, this is the identifier, this is the field that's associated with the platonic vulnerability, something in there. I want column 1 to be this identifier. I think my intuition is that would go a long way. I'd be really interested what other people think about that. It's more about the presentation than it is the other stuff. That gets really complicated, I think, really fast.
I think from a presentation concern, I think the only kind of gap that comes up in my mind is, does the user get mad when we do buy CVE, but we still show GHSA because it doesn't have that linked severity or that linked record? I've seen people be like, hey, I did buy CVE and I still get GHSAs. Why is that? And you're like, well, that's because there's no MVD data. It's like, do we want to stop showing those matches in this case?
Yeah.
I mean, I would
This-
think
yeah.
no, unless there was another thing that says to drop them explicitly.
Yeah, yeah. Even so, it's a good point. Even that get complex. I hate to do this, but we are at time. I clicked on one it is a very interesting topic, though. Like, I do think it might be interesting for if folks are interested in contributing to this discussion. Like, by location came up, by other things. Might be interesting to come in and share your perspectives on, what other parameters or characteristics of these types of matches might you want to see the list by. I'd be interested.
I'll foreshadow, this is on the milestone for Grype 1.0, so it's gonna heavily affect how we decide to present like JSON and what other flavors of JSON. So like, this is a good one.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in this one,
absolutely.
definitely leave your thoughts here, so.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you all. Sorry to cut the conversation short because it is an interesting one. Maybe we can pick it up next time. But for now, I'll say thanks everyone for joining. It's been a great session today, and we'll see you next week. And have a great rest of the week.
I know. Cheers, folks.
Bye all.